Hello everyone, welcome to Voxer. In this video, we're gonna discuss reading passage 3 from test 1, book 21. We have already discussed reading passage 1 and passage 2 of this particular test. So if you haven't watched those videos, you should, but after this one. For this, I need your undivided attention so that you can understand how to solve this particular passage and how to solve these questions. So without further ado, let's begin. So the title of the passage says Book Review: The World of Sugar by Ulbe Bosma. So I believe I may be butchering the name. So I'm sorry for that if I'm mispronouncing the name. So you have to bear with me for that particular thing. Okay, so why we read the title? Because it helps us to understand what kind of information may be given in the paragraph. Like from this particular title, it's quite clear that this paragraph will contain the review given in this particular book. So the world of sugar, so it may be like why we invented sugar, or what are the reasons we need sugar now, or what was the reasons we needed sugar in the past, something like that. And something about it, is it beneficial for us or not, misconceptions about sugar, or the difficulties in the process. Maybe some other kind of information may be given, but it helps us to channel our vocabulary, that we have to read such kind of information, because students usually get bored when they read some paragraph. So it will help you to overcome that problem. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go to the questions, see what kind of questions we are dealing with, make some strategy, and then start reading the paragraph. So let's see, total number of questions are from question 27 to 40. So these are questions 27 to 30. So questions are on the right hand side. So choose the correct letter. So we have MCQs. So what does the reviewer suggest? Cultivation. So it's in the first paragraph. Let's see, in the second paragraph, third paragraph, final paragraph. So we are lucky for this particular passage because they have given us location for every question here. Clear? And 31 to 36, complete the summary using the list of words A are below. So you have to complete the blanks, but in these kinds of blanks, you do not choose words from the passage. You have to pick the words from the box. Here the box is given A to Y, so you have to write the option number. Be careful, do not write the answer. For example, let's just say for 31, the answer is option A. Do not write national governments on your answer sheet. You have to write A option, because they have told you write the correct letter A I, not the option. Clear? Not the words. And 37 to 40, let me change the color for all these three. So these questions are yes, no, not given. So now we should make a strategy for this. Let me change the color for this. Let me pick green. Now what we're gonna do is, for instance, we know the 27th question is in the first paragraph, so we don't have to worry about that. Now what we're gonna do is, we're gonna read some like first option, first paragraph, or first information for this particular set of question, and for this particular set as well, so that when we encounter such information, then maybe we will be able to find the information quickly, so we do not have to read the paragraph again and again. Clear? So let's see, sugar cultivation and production. So wherever there is mention of sugar cultivation and production, around that that information or that paragraph, our answer will begin. The book, The World of Sugar. So wherever this particular information is given about the world of sugar, this book points out similarities. So what are the similarities in the way sugar was cultivated around the world? So wherever we find this particular information, we will then read the remaining information. 37 to 40. Let's read the 37th question now. Sugar has now become available in large quantities due to range of agricultural development. So wherever we will find this information about agricultural developments, advancements, like there are a lot of advancements in agriculture, like we have made some machines, the pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers, the seeds. Such kind of information is given, like it is better now than it was in the past, so we know we are talking about the advancement. So wherever we will talk about such kind of thing, we will go to the questions then. Clear? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to read the first question, 27th question, because why? Because we are 100% sure that this information will be given in the first paragraph. So, let's read this particular question. What does the reviewer suggest about the cultivation and trading of sugar in the first paragraph? So, we have to tell. So, what the reviewer suggests about the cultivation and trading of sugar? So, we have to say, what about the trading and cultivation of sugar? First, sugar has played a major role in international relations. If the sugar has played a major role, a primary role in improving relations, then it will be our answer. Beet sugar has been made more internationally competitive. So this is some other type of sugar. This is simple sugar. This is beet sugar. So if it has been made more competitive in the international market, then B will be our answer. Cane sugar is thought to be superior quality to beet sugar. So if we are talking about better quality, the cane is better than beet, then C will be our answer. New locations for cultivating sugar have increased production. So if we're talking about new locations for cultivating sugar, and the new location, the number of locations has increased, the number has increased. So D will be our answer. Let's read the A paragraph, sorry, first paragraph now. Ulbe Bosma. Let's talk about this. The world of sugar. Okay, so we have found the word. The world of sugar is a genuinely global history. Bosma discusses all the sugar growing places in the world, beginning with Cuba and Java, the largest exporters of the early 20th century. Okay, so this particular person is talking about these two places as the all he is discussing all the places beginning with these two places, and they are the largest exporters. But this is a history not just of cane sugar but also of beet sugar. So but this doesn't mean it is only for cane sugar, but it is true for beet sugar as well, an equally important form of traded sugar over the last 100 years, and it is equally important for the trade purposes. Beet sugar is grown mainly in Europe and the United States. So this is the location of beet sugar where it is grown. It has also been massively subsidized and sold at artificially low prices on world markets, threatening the livelihood of producers of cane sugar. And here it refers to obviously beet sugar, and they're saying that beet sugar it has been massively subsidized, meaning a government is paying money to the growers of this particular type of sugar, and it is sold at low prices on world market. So that's why it is threatening the livelihood of cane sugar producers. Hopefully, the paragraph is clear. Now you will have around 10 seconds to tell me whether option for 27th correct answer is A, B, C, or D, and the time starts now. Okay, time's up. And the correct answer is, I'm going to mark the correct answer first. Which one have you marked? Yes, B. Beet sugar has been made more internationally competitive. Where it is written, let me just mark the location for you guys so that you will be able to easily understand where I'm talking about. They here, question 27. So let's see why this is our answer, because here they have said that beet sugar has been made more internationally competitive. Here they're talking about why how it has been made competitive by massively subsidizing and selling it at low prices. So that's how governments have made it internationally competitive, so internationally world markets. I hope it is clear. So let's see other options. Let me do this. Sugar has played important role in international relations. There is no mention about that. There is no mention about quality as well, and there is no mention about new locations. They have talked about Cuba and Java. So they are the largest producers of the early 20th century, but they are not talking about new locations. Be very careful about that. Clear? Okay, now let's see if we have to read this. So is there any mention about the world of sugar? Yes, there is mention of world of sugar, but is there any mention about similarities in the way sugar is cultivated? Yeah, we are talking about sugar production, but there is no mention about the similar process, like throughout the world similar process is used. Okay, even then if we have to be very sure, let's read 31st question. In the big industries in both Germany and the US. Okay, now we will have to find Germany and the US. Is there any mention about Germany and US? No. There is mention about Cuba and Java, but not about Germany and the US. So we know our answer is not in this particular paragraph. Clear? And for this, is there any mention about agricultural developments? No, there is no mention about that either. Now, let's move on to the 28th question. So, in the first paragraph, only 27th was present. In the second, we know 28th will be there. In the second paragraph, when discussing the sugar market in Britain, the reviewer stresses. Now, what we're going to do is, so what we're doing is we are discussing about the sugar market in the second paragraph, and that market is in Britain, and we have to find what the reviewer stresses. Stresses means emphasize, put focus on how the sources used changed over time. So has the reviewer focused on the change of sources over time, like 100 years ago we were sourcing it from A place, but now we're sourcing it from B place, something like that, or from where we are cultivating, something like that. Has the sources changed or not? Is this particular thing being emphasized? Then A will be the answer. How developments in agriculture affected trade. So if the developments in agriculture affected trade, B will be our answer. C, the increased demand for sugar over the years. So if the demand has increased, C will be our answer. The growing support for ethical methods of cultivation. So if the support for ethical methods is growing, then D will be our answer. Let's read the second paragraph. Bosma's discussion of the sugar market in Britain gives a sense of books range. So they are talking about discussion of sugar market in Britain. Obviously, we are talking about that. The sweet toothed British first bought cane sugar from their own slavery dependent colonial plantation. So, the first time sweet toothed British, like people who like sweet dishes, there's a idiom. If you don't know about that, if somebody say I have a sweet tooth, so they mean they like desserts. Okay, so they bought cane sugar from their own slavery dependent colonial plantations. That's the location. Following the abolition of slavery in the British Empire, cane sugar was imported to Britain from places which retained the practice, such as Cuba and Brazil. Now and then they started exporting it from these two places. Towards the end of the 19th century, the British started to import beet sugar from continental Europe, and by the 19th century they started to import from continental Europe. Only in the 20th century was there move to develop a national beet sugar industry. But by the end of the 20 or by the 20th century, they started to make their own sugar. Okay, so there was a, you can say, move to develop national beet sugar industry so that they can produce or manufacture their own sugar. I hope it is clear. So you know the drill. You will have around 10 seconds to tell me answer to question number 28, whether it's A, B, C, or D, and the time starts now. Okay, time's up. And the answer to this particular question is yes, option A. How the sources used changed over time. So, how we came to this conclusion? Yeah, here in the entire paragraph, it is written like that. From beginning, they started. Let me just mark the location first for you guys. That's question 28. So here they said in the beginning they started importing it from colonial plantations, then from then from Cuba and Brazil, then from continental Europe, and then they have started growing it nationally. Let's see why other options are not our answer. So there is no talk about developments affecting trade. Okay, the color is this one. Okay, And see, there is no there is no mention about whether there was increase in demand for sugar over the years or not, and there is nothing about how it was grown. So we don't have any information regarding that. So that's why our answer to this is A option. Clear? Let's see. Do we need to read 31st question? Is there any mention about Germany and the US? No. There is no mention about that. There is mention about Cuba and Brazil, Europe, continental Europe, but no mention about Germany and the US. Hope it is clear. And is there any mention about any agricultural developments? Again, no, there is no mention regarding that as well. So let's move on to the next question, 29th. What is the reviewer doing in the third paragraph? Now we have to tell what the reviewer is trying to tell us in the third paragraph. Describing an efficient approach to sugar cultivation. If the reviewer is trying to discuss an efficient approach or like a better approach to sugar cultivation, A will be our answer. Explaining why the use of sugar plantations declined. So if he is telling the reasons about the decline of the sugar plantation, then B will be our answer. Addressing a misconception about the growing of sugarcane. So if there is any misconception about growing sugarcane, and if the reviewer is addressing that, like telling you that this is a misconception, this is like this is not true, if this is such, this is the case, C will be our answer. D, evaluating different approaches to cultivation of sugarcane. So if the reviewer is evaluating different approaches, then D will be our answer. Be very careful between the difference between A and D. In A option, they are talking about one particular approach which is better, okay, or which is like more beneficial than others. Here they are talking about just different kind of approaches. Like there are like, let's just say three kinds of approaches, A, B, and C. So in A we can get this much yield, B we can get this much yield, C we can get this much yield, and we are evaluating, comparing different methods, but not saying this is more efficient, something like that. But in A option, he will be discussing, if A is the answer, I'm not saying A is the answer, but if A is the answer, he will be discussing one particular approach as the best method. I hope it is clear. Let's read the third paragraph. So, one, two, three. So, this is the third paragraph. The book provides a global labor history, investigating the wide range of labor regimes associated with growing sugar. Okay, so now they're talking about what book is discussing. Okay, contrary to popular belief, cane sugar production was never just restricted to large dedicated plantation owned by rich men. So they're saying that uh, contrary to popular belief, it was not just rich men. Maybe what it means is like maybe poor people also grew sugar, something like that. For example, in Java, so it should be a name of a place, a huge exporter of sugar in the early 20th century, sugar cane was grown together with rice in extraordinarily labor intensive way by small farmers. So they're talking about not only rich men, but small farmers also grew sugar. I hope it is clear. You know the drill. You have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. And the answer to this particular question is A, B, C, or D? Yes, C. Addressing a misconception about growing of sugarcane. Where it is written, so misconception about something. So misconception means people have understood it incorrectly. So contrary to popular belief, opposite to what people believe. So the or the writer is, or the reviewer is addressing the misconception. Let me just mark the location of this question first, then I will explain a bit more if you need so. Clear? So here he is addressing like what people believed was it was grown by rich men only, but no. For example, he has cleared that even the small farmers in country named Java, which was a huge exporter of sugar in early 20th century, this particular country or this particular place, here small farmers grew sugarcane with rice. Clear? Let's see. Other options are not our answer. Why? So there is no one particular approach being discussed. Obviously, So there is no mention that plantations decline, there is no mention about decrease in the cultivation, and there is no evaluation or comparison about different approaches. So obviously C is our only answer. Clear? Now, do we need to read this? No, because there is no mention about Germany and the US, so we don't have to worry about that. And is there any mention about agricultural developments? Again, no, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's read 30th question in the final paragraph. Okay, now we know this particular question will be in this. Yeah, this is the last paragraph. This question will be in this paragraph. Now you have two options. Either you can read this paragraph, get it over with for the 30th question, or if you want to read it continuously, you can read it continuously, and when you will arrive at this paragraph, you can solve this. So it's up to you what you feel comfortable with. There is no correct way, there is no one way to solve this. It's only up to you. If you are comfortable, if you want to solve it right now, you can solve it right now, but if you want to solve it later, you can solve it later. So it's up to you. So what I am gonna do is, uh, you can, if you want to solve it, I'm gonna give you chance to do both. So if you want to solve now, you can pause the video, you can read the question and the paragraph, and then solve it on your own. But for those who would like to solve at the end, I will move on to the next paragraph, and then when we will reach to this particular paragraph, I will solve that this particular question. So it will help both sets of students. So you can pause the video right now. Okay, now I'm going to continue with the next paragraph. So, till now we have read this. Now, let's see what this paragraph holds. The world of sugar is also a story of similarity and continuity in sugar cultivation. Now, is there any word we have read here? Yes, points out similarities in the way of cultivation. So here, obviously, the name is also written, the world of sugar, and similarities. Sorry about that. In sugar cultivation. So we're talking about this. So now we should read this particular blank. In the big industries in both Germany and the US, sugar farming depended on 31. So before doing these questions, what you can do is, if you're not sure about these kind of questions, you should read all the options, whether you are able to understand that these options or not, because if you are not able to understand the meanings of these words, you will not be able to solve these blanks. Why? Because there is a high chance, let's just say more than 95% of the times, you will not be given the exact words, you will be given the paraphrases. So you have to read this particular information and then find out which word suits the best. So A, national governments, it's simple. Agricultural developments, again talking about improvements in agriculture. Less wealthy nations, it can be written as poor nations. Less fortunate nations, nations with less money, something like that. So you have to be very careful about that. Untrained workers, unskilled workers, workers who are not trained properly, so maybe something like that can be written here. Small scale cultivation, not on large scale. Outdated methods, okay, old methods. Financial controls, simple. Migrant workers, who are migrant workers? People coming from different parts of the country, or from other cities, other states, other parts of the world. Powerful individuals and businesses, obviously big industries, powerful businessmen, something like that. Clear? Now let's see. So in big industries in both Germany and US, sugar farming depended on something. So obviously it should depend on something. Let's see on what kind of thing it depended on in Germany and the US. For example, imported labor has been used for much large scale production. So what guys, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. So okay, so let's read again. For example, imported labor has been used for much large scale production. So what they are using? They are using imported labor for large scale production. German beet fields employed Polish workers, Mexican and many other, including Sicilians, were vital to US sugar production. Okay, now we are talking about both Germany. Here, let me just mark it. Germany and US. So they're saying that in big industries in both Germany and the US, sugar farming depended on something. Okay, let me do this. Yes. So you have just 1 second, guys. Let me change the dimensions of this. Let me just do this so that it can fit in one particular thing. Yeah, now it's okay. So here they're saying that in big industries in both Germany and US, sugar farming depended on something. So you have particular yeah, this is your location for this particular answer, and you will have around 10 seconds to tell me which option is the answer to the question number 31, and the time starts now. Okay, time's up, and the answer to this particular question is yes. Let me write it here first. Option H, migrant workers. Let me mark it here for you guys. Where it is written, how we arrived at this particular conclusion, from here. Imported labor has been used for large scale production, so it depended on imported labor, because if Germany didn't employed sorry, if Germany didn't employ Polish workers and US didn't employ Mexican and other nationalities, their sugar production would not have been possible. So instead of this, let me do this again, just 1 second. This is question 31. I hope it is clear why migrant workers, why we arrived at migrant workers as our answer. Let's read question 32 now. However, in other parts of the world, such as South Asia and Latin America, blank continued. Now we have to find these two places, South Asia and Latin America. Something continued. Let's see what continued in these particular parts of the world. Cane cutting, Bosma shows, remains a poorly paid and brutal business to this day in many places of the world. So they're saying that this particular business is still poorly paid. But as well as this, the book is about the continuity of the use of traditional methods on small farms. So we are continuing, or we are using continuously using traditional methods on small farms. In the mid 20th century, this type of sugar production dominated South Asia and Latin America. So obviously our answer is in this particular location. And again, you know the drill. To tell me the answer, you have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. And the answer to this is, let me write it here. Which option have you found? Yes, option E. That is small. Okay, sorry about that. Oh, again, just let me do this. What's happening to my mouse? I don't know. Small scale cultivation. And from where we arrived at this, here, from traditional methods on small farms, so that we are using continuously these kinds of methods. So small scale cultivation So obviously, on small farms, a traditional method, you cannot grow a lot of thing due from traditional methods. So if you're using, let's just say, buffaloes or oxen to plow your field, because that's how humans did it traditionally by the use of animals. If you're using that particular thing, you will not be able to attain a high yield. Okay, let's read 33rd question now. Sugar production okay, for this, I forgot this. Now, do you think we need to read 37th question? Is there any mention about agricultural developments in this particular paragraph? No, there is no mention about new methods or better methods or developed methods. They're talking about traditional methods and where they were grown or what kind of migrant workers were used. Clear? So we don't have to worry about that. Let's read 33rd now. Sugar production has also involved blank who were eager to protect their markets. Now, if you are very careful about these kinds of blanks, you will be able to understand some things. So here they have written who. Let me mark it here for you. So with whom we use who? Yeah, with people. Clear? Basically. So there should be some kind of person or some kind of living things in should be here. So sugar production also involved blank who were eager to protect their markets, and were basically means plural. So they were trying to protect their markets. So it can be national governments, agriculture developments. It doesn't sound good. Less wealthy nations. Yeah, it can be untrained workers. Yeah, grammatically it can be, but it doesn't like sound right with me. Outdated methods, no, it can be financial controls, no, powerful individuals and businesses, yeah, it can also be the answer. So let's see. This is also a history of capitalist and sugar dynasties as well as corporations that in some cases have remained influential over very long periods. So they're saying that now we have history of these and they have tried to remain influential for a lot of time. So in countries such as Cuba, the sugar industry therefore had a major influence on blank. Let's see. Great firms and great interest have had profound influence on policies of states in many places, not just British Caribbean but Cuba and Philippines. So here we have found the answer to 34th. So obviously, as predicted, the answer should be or answer is in this particular sentence for question number 33. You have around 10 seconds and the time starts now. Okay, time's up. And the answer to 33rd question is, let me write it here, option I. I hope you arrived at the correct answer. If not, don't worry, I'm going to explain it to you why we arrived at the option I. So, where it is written, sorry about that. Here, capitalist sugar dynasties as well as corporations. So, powerful individuals and businesses, they were eager to protect their market. So, to protect their market, remain influential. So, if you are trying to remain influential on something or someone, you are trying to protect your hold over that particular thing. Clear? Let's read 34th question now. In countries such as Cuba, the sugar industry therefore had a major influence on. So they're saying that in countries such as Cuba, so such as basically means say example of Cuba, they have taken example of Cuba, the sugar industry, okay, this particular industry, it had major influence on something or someone. Obviously we can have influence on someone or something. Let's see. Great firms and great interest have had profound influence on the policies of state. So just one second guys, let me drink some water first. Okay, sorry for the interval. Thank you for waiting. So where were we? Yeah. So we were trying to find sugar industry influence on. So great firms and great interest have had a profound influence on policies of state. So we're talking about the profound influence. So obviously our answer is in this particular, because here they have written in many places, not just the Britain but Cuba, a powerful sugar bourgeois played a major role in politics, and their interests were consequently protected by trade barriers and subsidies. So they have explained it what they mean by this. So from these two sentences we can find our answer easily, and for that you will have around 10 seconds. Tell me which option is our correct answer. The time starts now. Okay, time's up, and the answer to 34th is option, yes, A. I hope you arrived at the particular answer. If not, oh sorry about that, if not, don't worry, I'm going to explain it to you why this is our answer. Let me just mark it first. So how we arrived at this here? Profound impact on the policies of state. So who make the policies? Governments, obviously. So that from this particular sentence we can easily find our location. Clear? Let's see 35th question now. To support the interests of sugar producers, blank were established. As a result of this, dash were penalized. So now we're talking about if we, what governments wanted to do, they wanted to support the interest of sugar producers, therefore dash were established. So they established something, they made something, okay, and because of that particular thing, so what can governments do? They can make rules, they can make laws, legislation, something like that, and if you like break those things, you will be penalized. Let's see. And their interest, so yeah, their interest basically refers to interest of sugar producers, were consequently protected by trade barriers and subsidies. So obviously our location to this particular sentence is in this particular sentence, and for that you will have around 10 seconds. Tell me the answer, which is the answer to question 35. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. So the answer to question 35 is option G, financial controls. I hope you figured out this particular option. How we arrived at this? Because they're saying that here in this, to support their interest. So if you want to support someone, obviously you are trying to protect them, and to protect them, what they did, they implied or implemented subsidies, trade barriers and subsidies. So obviously they have some kind of financial control over that, like you cannot do this, if you want to do this you need to this kind of money, if you don't do this you will have to follow this particular thing. So because big organizations, they have all the leeway in the world they want, because governments do whatever they want to make their businesses, to make them do businesses easily, so something like that. So that's what it has been written here. Let's see. As a result, Dash were penalized. In the battle for control of the industry, it was inevitably the poor countries which came off worse. This is explored by Bosma with wonderful subtlety and control. So they're saying that because they wanted to control something, poor countries, they came off worse. Basically, poor countries were the faced the worst outcomes. So okay, so obviously our answer is in this particular location. So you know the drill. You have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up, and the answer to 36 is option C. less wealthy nations. I hope you figure out this particular answer. Poor countries. Here they have written. Let me mark it first for you guys, then I'll explain. So here they are saying that as a result of these particular thing, dash were penalized. So here they're saying that in the battle of control, so as a result of trying to control, so this is has been paraphrased as a result in the battle of control for the industry, it is inevitably that poor countries came off worse. So they were penalized because they didn't have money to bribe the government or to lobby something, so that's why they were penalized. I hope it is clear. Now, do we need to read this particular question right now for this particular paragraph? Is there any mention about agriculture development? No. So don't have to worry about that. So we have completed all these questions. Yep. Let's move on to 37. Let's read this paragraph. But sugar production was never just a matter of agriculture. It also involved the extraction close to the place of harvest of sucrose from the sugar plant, a process which required machinery powered by humans, animals, wind, or steam. So they're talking about process here now. Further processes involved boiling from the 19th century. This often involved vacuum systems and the separation of sugar from other materials in a process known as refinement. From very early on, sugar production was an energy intensive industrial process, mostly taking place in the countryside and in refineries in centers of consumption, both small and large. The growth of the industry entailed a very rapid diffusion of ideas and techniques from one country to another. Cuba, for example, developed an extraordinarily dense system of railways to transport workers and cane as well as steam powered sugar factories. Particular varieties of cane, sugar, and beet sugar spread very rapidly across the world in accordance with local needs and demands. So, here in this particular paragraph, they have just talked about the process of sugar, you can say extraction, how sugar is manufactured, where it is manufactured, who are involved in that particular process, equipment used in that particular process. But is there any mention about developments in agriculture? No, no, there is no mention about agricultural developments. So we don't have to worry about that. And obviously, only one question is left, that is 30th, and it's in the last paragraph. So we don't have to worry about that also. So that means in this paragraph, we do not have any answer. So we don't have to worry about anything. So let's read next paragraph. Where once only tiny quantities of sugar could be produced, now new techniques, varieties, fertilizers, irrigation systems, and much more have turned gleaming white sugar into ubiquitous chemical. Okay, let me change the color for this now. So this is the location of our question 37. Obviously the here we're talking about something like that. Now you have to tell me whether the answer to this particular question is yes, no, or not given, and for that you will have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up, and the answer to this question is yes. I hope everybody arrived at this particular answer. It was quite straightforward. So they're saying that the question has now become available in large quantities because of development. Yes, they're saying similar things, like once only tiny quantities, but now it is ubiquitous. So ubiquitous means present everywhere. So obviously it should be in large quantities if it has to be everywhere every time. Clear? Let's read 38th question now. Advertisers initially marketed sugar as a luxury product. If in the beginning advertisers they marketed sugar as a luxury product, basically for rich people only, or for use on or sparsing use or like rare use, if that's the case, then in the beginning, obviously initially, then the answer will be yes. But if that's not the case, even in the beginning, from the start, sugar was marketed as common household item, should be used regularly, it was not that expensive, then the answer to this is no. And if we don't know anything about that, what was the initial how it was initially marketed, then the answer will be not given. Clear? So let's read further. Over the same time, there has been a massive increase in the consumption. Now we're talking about there was increase in consumption, once regarded as luxury. Okay, so once it was regarded as luxury, sugar came to be promoted as valuable source of energy, and after that, it was promoted as valuable source of energy. Clear? So this is our location, and you will have around 10 seconds. Tell me whether the answer to this is true, false, or not given. And the time starts now. Okay, time's up. And the answer to this particular question is not given. I hope you arrived at this particular answer. Why it is not given? Here they are saying, though they are saying that once it was marketed as, so once it was regarded as luxury. Regarded as luxury means people thought of it as a luxury, but now it is quite common. Okay, but now it came to be promoted as valuable source of energy. So with time, it was promoted as it was a valuable source of energy, because when you eat it, it gives you certain burst of energy, something like that. But we don't know what was the initial step used by the advertisers. Yeah, people considered it luxury. Once it was regarded as luxury means people considered it as luxury. But what did advertisers do in the beginning? Did they say it was a luxury item, or did they market it as common item? We don't know about that. That's why the answer to this particular question will be not given. Clear? Let's read 39th question now. The invention of high fructose corn syrup was a positive development. So if this particular invention of high fructose corn syrup, if it is a positive development, the answer will be yes. But if it is not a positive development, it's a negative development, the answer will be no. But if we don't know whether it was positive or negative, the answer will be not given. So let's read it. But as the consumption of sugar has increased, so has the harm it does, whether to people's teeth or weight. In the face of appalling obstruction from the sugar industry to attempts to reduce sugar consumption, some countries have been forced to tax sugar in order to bring that about. So we don't have any information regarding high fructose corn syrup till now. The sugar industry has a history of attracting its critics, and when it comes to obesity, of trying to blame fats and lack of exercise and self-control. And the recent past has seen worrying new developments in mass sweetening. High fructose. So here is our high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup made from maize using an enzymatic process invented in Japan in 1960 has a similar number of calories to table sugar, but is far cheaper to produce. So now they're talking about this particular thing. And yeah, from here to, let's just say, here, you have your answer to question number 39. And to tell me whether the answer is yes, no, or not given, you have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. And the answer to this particular question is no. Oh, what have I done? The answer is no. I hope you arrived at this particular answer. Why it is no? Because they're saying that here in the question it's a positive development, but here they're saying that there has been worrying new developments in mass sweetening. So if the developments are worrying, that means they are negative. So that one of the example is high fructose corn syrup. So that's mass sweetening. I hope it is clear. Let's move on to the 40th question now. High fructose corn syrup, again, this is also high fructose corn syrup, is an ingredient in many processed foods. So, if this particular ingredient is used in many processed foods, then the answer will be yes. If not, no. If we don't know about that, not given. Let's read it. It is now widely consumed, having been adopted in the making of soft drinks and a large number of processed foods, and is regarded as a leading cause of obesity. So, obviously, this is our location, processed foods. So, obviously, here is our location. So, you have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. The answer to this question is yes, because here it is clearly written it is now widely. So here it refers to, it is a pronoun, obviously it refers to something that has been said previously. So previously we were talking about high fructose corn syrup. I hope it is clear. So it is used in soft drinks, a large number of processed food. It is used as ingredient in this. Yes, clear. So now only one question is left, that is question number 30th. Let's read the 30th question now. In the final paragraph, what does the reviewer suggest is the overall message of Bosma's book? So now we have to, what happened here? Just give me one sec. So now we have to tell what does the reviewer suggest about what is the overall message of this particular book. First, sugar is harmful and unnecessary product. If this is the message that sugar is unnecessary product, it is a harmful product, A will be our answer. Economic pressure is needed to control sugar production. If we need economic pressure to control production, B will be our answer. Conditions for workers in sugar production should be improved. If they're talking about condition of workers need to be improved, C will be our answer. Intensive marketing of sugar has had disastrous consequences. So if a lot of marketing is bad, it is showing bad outcomes, D will be our answer. Let's see what's the message of this particular book. This is a wonderfully rich book, a model of global history, the history of production and the history of capitalism. Bosma avoids outbursts of emotion. So they're saying that this book is wonderfully rich book. It is a model of global history and production of capitalism. History of capitalism and history of production. So this particular person, he avoids outburst of emotion, celebratory or critical, even if they might have made his analysis of the multiple strategies involving sugar all the more powerful. He shows that we could always have done without sugar and that today we have many alternate sources of sweetness. So he's basically telling that we could have done without sugar and now we have already a lot of alternative sources of sweetness. Yet many of the poorest people in the world still depend on it to make a living. But many people around the world, they depend on it. Sorry about that. Many people on in the world depend on sugar production too, so that they can earn their livelihood. I hope it is clear. Now you have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. And the answer to this particular question is A, B, C, or D? Yes, A option. Sugar is a harmful and unnecessary product. Where it is written, so here they have said multiple strategies involving sugar. Okay, and also we could have done without sugar, and there are many alternatives available. So obviously it was unnecessary and harmful. I hope it is clear. Let's see the other options why they are not our answer. So economic pressure to control sugar. There is no mention about controlling sugar production. Yeah, they have talked about workers here. poorest people making living on it, but there is no mention that their conditions should be improved. So there is no mention about that, and there is no mention about marketing either. So obviously our answer to this is A option. I hope it is clear. So this is how you should solve these types of questions, or you should attempt reading, whatever reading it is. So if you are not sure about any question, or if you were not able to understand any particular question or any questions, you can rewatch that part of the video again and again until it becomes clear, or you can ask us in the comment section. We will be happy to help you. And if you want to watch more such videos, you can go to our playlist and you will find such other videos as well. So that's it for this video then. I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.